Welcome back. A bit of a focus on the court case on the go in Pietermaritzburg. In a moment, I'll be in conversation with the cultural expert Mawande Kheswa. But before that, let's do a quick update. Zulu Queen Sibongile Dlamini-Zulu has lost her bid to amend her court papers so that she could challenge the 5 marriages of the late King Goodwill Zwelithini Zulu. KwaZulu-Natal Deputy Judge President Isaac Madondo is now hearing the second part where Princesses Ntando Yenkosi and Ntombi Zosuthu want the authenticity of the signature in the will of the late King Goodwill Zwelithini to be verified because there are suspicions that it is allegedly forged. The case has adjourned for lunch. Let's get a quick update from eNCA's Mawande Kheswa before engaging Mawande Kheswa on those matters that are coming through. Mawande, so it seems we are back, we are in class in as far as the family law is concerned. The Black Administration Act it seems to be...
It has been a day that one can explain or describe as one that has been filled really with fireworks and quite heavy arguments from both sides, from the applicants as well as the respondents. The one thing that has stood out here today, as you've mentioned in the intro, is that the Queen has lost that bid to amend those court papers. Really highly contested from both parties. Quite a lot of legal jargon thrown around there, but to just put things down for us and explain it in a manner in which is void of that jargon, I'm going to speak to Mpumelelo Zigalala, who is a legal practitioner. Mpumelelo, we thank you for your time. Whatever comes out here will have bearing on a lot of future cases that may come into court. Could you just give us a breakdown really of what we've seen transpire from the morning until what is now going to be dealt with around the validity of that signature on the late King's will?
Firstly, is the dismissal of the application to amend the papers. Let's remember, on that one, the court was simply saying it's a bit too late at this particular stage where there are certain things and people that have responded. You haven't given an opportunity to respond adequately on the papers that we have. For example, the other wives have not given a proper response as pertaining to your amended notice of motion now, because it speaks to the validity of their marriage. It speaks to the personal status, and it can't be that we are simply going to accept that they have signed confirmatory affidavits. So on that basis, the amount of prejudice that is going to be suffered by both parties, financial part, the amount of time that has lapsed, bringing this application at this late stage when you are the dominant leaders in the first place. You brought us to court. We are simply not going to allow that. Deal with the matter with what we have. Now that moved on to the second part, dealing with the manner in which those type of marriages should be recognized. Of highly contested terrain was this. Do you want to declare your marriage as being incommunicable property? If the answer to that is yes, the respondent are simply saying, why do you want to declare that when there's no dispute? No one is disputing that you are married civilly to the late king. So what's the nature of that particular dispute? You've seen it being backed up with Advocate Chopping also lamenting that particular point, saying that it would be a bit not totally incorrect for the court to make that determination, but why make it? What's the intention of making that determination when there are few other things that may come in at a later stage? Linked to that is this. Let's remember that there's still the estate of the king that has to be distributed. If there are any disputes that are going to arise out of that, and the determination of the validity of any of the marriages being that of a civil nature rather than a customary one, is going to have a very important bearing on whether someone is supposed to get 50% part of the estate or the whole estate. So they are simply saying it is a bit premature to do that. There's no dispute that has arisen, so give it some time so that when that dispute comes in, we'll then be able to come back and state our case to you. The last one, which is going to be dealt with when you come back from the break, is this one. They're simply saying we are disputing the contents of the will, that this is the signature of the late king. We have got our experts, and they've told us that this is not the actual signature. Linked to that, though, which is being seen to worm its way into this particular application, is the validity of the process of the nomination of the successor and the manner in which the successor it is chosen. They have stated explicitly when the applicant started to make his comments, said, we're not disputing or saying that anyone must be sort of installed as the king. However, we're simply disputing the process, which is when you read the type of manner and the order in which they are seeking for, it speaks directly to that. But we're still to hear as to the manner of that particular application when you come back. Let's also remember, in that aspect, there's no codification of how a king is selected. And there's a huge difference between nomination and recommendation as per the Act, which then requires one to be installed as a king. So basically, we are dealing with things that have not been codified. We'll rely especially on the customary law experts that have existed between the various regimes, who are then the appropriate person to tell us how is a king nominated, how is a king recognized, and certainly how is a king installed.
Thank you very much for that stellar breakdown. We have been speaking to Mpumelelo Zikalala, who is a legal practitioner, keeping an eye on things as they happen and being able to break things down for us to simply understand what has transpired between the morning and now.
All right, thank you for that. That's eNCA's Mawande Kheswa at the High Court, the division KwaZulu-Natal in Pietermaritzburg, engaging the brilliant legal practitioner there, Mpumelelo Zikalala, breaking it down. It's family law class for all of us around that matter.